This is Edge of the Box, a podcast brought to you by WhoScored.com.
Hello, welcome back to the Edge of the Box podcast, a podcast by WhoScored.com in association with BetVictor. Today we're going to look at the last 16 games. We're going to preview them. Just a quick mention that if you did miss it, we did go back and review the group stages as well. So if you missed that show, go back and check it out. I'm sure it was very, very interesting. Jonathan and Martin joining me as usual. And we're going to start, guys, with that classic tie. The one we're all probably a little bit worried about, if we're being honest, even though we don't think Germany are great. England v Germany at Wembley on Tuesday. Jonathan, how do you see it?
In some ways, from a narrative point of view, it's set up perfectly. This is Southgate exercising the demons of '96.
Yeah,
because it was him who missed the decisive penalty. And of the available options, it's probably the best for England. I certainly think they've got a better chance of beating Germany than they would do France or Portugal. I think Wembley can be a bit of a millstone for England, but it won't be against Germany. I think I think the atmosphere will, for once at Wembley, be very supportive of England. I guess England could have got Hungary, which maybe they'd have preferred, but I think that could have been another trudge, another slog, which probably is the last thing that the wider public wanted. And Hungary would have been dangerous. Salah and Sholai could easily have upset England, and I think people would have massively underestimated Hungary. Germany, I'm not really sure how you estimate them, because they're just it's such chaos. I mean, I still sort of think there's a possibility that everything could mysteriously click and they could absolutely smash England 5-0, because they have the players to do it. But I think I probably slightly favour England, just because of the fact it's at home, the fact that I just think Germany are a shambles. And I think you look at the back of that German midfield with Kroos and Gundogan. I mean, I guess Goretzka could play. From an England point of view, I think you don't want Goretzka to play. No. And it's an area where England could get about them if England use their attacking players in the right way. And you look at that back three, and Rudiger, Hummels, Ginter. I think there's, again, the pace in the England team, I think, could exploit that, particularly getting in behind the wing-backs. I think Robin Gosens has been great going forward, but suspect defensively. So if England can get him on the right, I think there's possibilities and options there. But Germany going forward clearly are extremely dangerous. And if England let the wing-back switch play, then that's going to cause them all kinds of problems, which then, I suppose, leads to the question of doing them go in with a 3 or a 4. And that, I think, is quite a complex issue.
Yeah, Martin, I saw you pulling faces when Jonathan was talking there about making England slight favourites. You just know that Germany are going to come alive for this game. It doesn't matter what's been going on. They will come alive, won't they?
Who knows? I don't think you do know. I know you think.
I know.
You do.
I know. I think I know.
I was just pulling faces just because I agree with Jonathan, but I didn't think that I would, because I thought he'd slightly favour Germany, even though I know he's obviously Joachim Löw's biggest fan.
It was a big game for me. I've gone hard on Löw.
I know, yeah. The last time you went hard on Germany, it was before the Portugal game. So yeah, let's be really nice to him. Please.
I haven't been impressed by Robin Gosens at all. I don't know what he brings. Exactly, that's what he brings. All right, fair enough.
Yeah, no, but I agree. I think that side could be really interesting. And yeah, like Jonathan says, the formation is a real talking point, because if you look at the games in which Germany struggled against Hungary last night, that Hungary played a back five, was pretty much a flat 5, which England won't do, but they may well move to a 3.
I wouldn't rule it out, Martin.
No, yeah, true. But yeah, they may well move to a 3. It's something it's not something that I endorsed pre-tournament, but it's certainly something that they'll consider, and I think they should consider. So yeah, I couldn't make that call whether they should stick with the 4 and stick with that sort of pattern, that stability throughout, or switch.
Well, I think there's 2 issues that it's very hard for us as outsiders to know, which is how much work have been done on it in training. If you've been practicing with a back 3 regularly in training as well as a back 4, then fine, I'd have less concerns. My woe would be if you suddenly switch without having done the work, or if you're only beginning that preparation now. And the other issue is Mason Mount and whether he is available or not.
Massive.
And also, to an extent, Chilwell, because I think if you do switch to a back three, Chilwell would be the more obvious choice at left back. I mean, I'm not saying Shaw couldn't do it, but given Chilwell plays in that system with Chelsea, he would seem more logical. Or perhaps you think, well, let's go Trippier on that side, and let's try and make sure that there's a bit of pressure on Kimmich, that there's no room for him to break into.
Yeah, I've got to say, I watched Chilwell play live at Villa Park on the last game of the season, and he was unbelievable at left wing back. He was such a threat. So I'm with you. If we do play that system, he would absolutely have to play that.
Well, the thing he gives you as well is he scores goals, and Shaw just doesn't.
Mm.
I mean, he doesn't score many goals, but he gets to the 5 a season, whereas Shaw, I'm sure he has scored the odd goal here and there, but he's just not a goal-scoring player. And in a team that's really short of goals, the potential of Chilwell picking up on something loose in the box, coming at the back post, and I think his crossing is better than Shaw's as well. So that's the case for Chilwell. But if he hasn't been training with the side, I don't know how easy it is to suddenly integrate a player who's been training apart for a week.
Yeah, I'd question it. I don't think there's a chance. I agree. Like if we didn't have this issue of him being in quarantine right now, I'd agree that it's probably the right choice. But I don't think there's a chance that he plays just because of that. Just because he's not training with the squad, he hasn't played to now. Be a massive, massive call to bring him in. And if that backfired, yeah.
About Mount, though, I think
Mount's
Mount's a different case because
Mount's definitely a different case.
Mount, isn't it?
100% a different.
Well,
case.
also he's been in the team
and he's played,
yeah, completely different case. I think he starts. I think he starts 100%. I think he should start, and I think he will. And it's just a case of it's still then. What formation are we playing? Are we playing a 3-4-3, or are we playing what we have been? If it's a 3-4-3, you're probably looking at Mount playing in one of the wide roles, aren't you?
Yeah.
Rather than in the four in the sort of two-man midfield, unless they go sort of 3-4-1-2. Possibly they could do that with Sterling sort of more central, but I don't think they will.
I can't see the three at the back. Southgate doesn't strike me as someone who would change formation mid-tournament. I think the fact that we get 3 clean sheets with 4 at the back, I just think he's going to keep it because
I certainly don't think they should go to a front 2. I think to do that against a back 3, I think would make very little sense.
Yeah.
And the other thing that occurred to me, it's been hasn't been a particularly memorable group stage thing, but one of the very few sort of images was quite early on in the Croatia game of Mount just running away from Modric, and Modric, the sort of look on Modric's face of, oh God, this happened in the Champions League semi-final. I can't believe this is happening again. Well, Kroos might be in the same boat, and I like the idea of Mount physically imposing himself on Kroos, who physically has not really looked sharp at all in this tournament.
So are we ruling Jack Grealish having done enough to start the game? What about Saka?
I don't know. I'm not ruling Grealish out entirely, because if they stick with the 4, which I say maybe we're leaning towards between the 3 of us, if they stick with the system.
Grealish was the 10, wasn't it? So I'm presuming Mount just comes straight in.
Yeah, but they could go back to a 3, sort of more of a 4-3-3. That's sort of what they played against Germany. It wasn't really a 4-2-3-1. Even though Mount is the obvious one that breaks forward. Certainly against Croatia, it was more of a 4-3-3. Phillips was pushing on. So if they play a 4-3-3, I think it's open to debate, because Sterling starts, Kane starts, and then it's the other side. It's between Foden, and I'd agree Saka's probably got a better chance than Grealish. The
argument for Saka is that he's so dynamic going backwards as well as forwards. Yeah. So if you want somebody to challenge Gerson's, both going forwards and backwards, Saka would seem a better choice for that than Foden, who looked uncomfortable on the right anyway. So I think Foden's been a bit unlucky in all this, but I think that would be the way I'd go. Would be Rice, Phillips, Mount as your midfield 3, Saka on the right, Sterling on the left, and Kane through the middle.
That's massive, isn't it? Because with all due respect, we sort of forgot about Bukayo Saka.
Yeah, completely.
With all the Jadon Sancho's not playing, everybody forgot about Bukayo Saka, other than Arsenal fans, who will have obviously been praying that he plays. And fair enough, he was outstanding. It was just one of those cases of a young kid coming in, not having any fear, and literally just carrying out the instructions of go and do what you do better, go and sort of express yourself.
And he linked very well with Phillips as well, which I think was really. In fact, they had that so quickly. I think is really encouraging.
Yeah, and the switches between the front, the sort of the three behind Kane in that game was in that first half was the thing that was really exciting. So I think the only way Grealish starts, for what it's worth, is if Sterling were to move over to the right and pose that sort of pace on that side. But I don't think that happens. So yeah, I don't think Grealish can start, because obviously then you've got Kimmich, who you've got to sort of control, and Grealish isn't that player. So yeah, I think there's a very good case for Saka to start this game, which is, like I say, that's massive. That's a huge turn up.
I'd say Southgate sees Grealish as the game changer if a game's not going to plan. I think that's the role he's going to utilise him in.
Yeah, I don't see that personally. I don't think he's an impact player at all, personally.
No, I think he's better from the start, but I'm saying
obviously everyone's better from the start. But I just don't see him as that impact player, personally.
No. Jonathan, any concerns about Germany? Who worries you for them?
I mean, everybody who's not a defender, essentially. I mean, Germany are really hard to assess just because there is no pattern. It's and when they were chasing the equaliser against Hungary, it was just chucking attacking players on. It was Steve McLaren against Steaua Bucharest in 2006. It was 2006, yeah. And it doesn't really make any sense, but somehow it builds up the pressure and eventually it falls for them. But yeah, if that game was the result of 3 years of careful rebuilding and planning after the World Cup, then, well, it wasn't, was it? It was, but they have an incredible number of individuals who could win a game almost single-handed. Yeah, I thought Havertz was superb against Portugal. Kimmich is a magnificent footballer in a whole range of different ways. Rudiger's been in sensational form the last 3 or 4 months. So it's very hard to pinpoint what the German threat is, because it's sort of everywhere and nowhere at the same time. It's trying to plan an assault on a swarm of bees. Just how do you do it? Basically just hope that your beekeeping suit and your smoke does the job, and you are bigger than them. And then the honey's there to help yourself. I might have gone on too long, but
I liked it. I mean, I'm preparing myself for an absolute disaster here and for him to have a world-class performance on Tuesday, but I feel like Neuer's creaking a little bit, Martin.
Yeah, I think since he's come back from injury, which is a fair time ago now, he's not been the same goalkeeper. He's not as imposing as he was. He's still more than capable of having a game where he looks like the best goalkeeper in the world, but where he's sort of fallen behind in that debate is his consistency. He makes a lot more errors than he used to. He's always been a little bit error prone, just in the way that he plays, but more so than usual. He was very, like I said in an earlier episode, points out the case really. He was excellent in the Champions League and pretty shaky in the Bundesliga. Bayern didn't keep that many clean sheets. So yeah, it's not, that probably brings us quite nicely onto our next section, to be honest, Dan, without wanting to segue and do your job for you.
Oh, the host, Martin Lawrence, wants us to talk about the combined 11, so let's do it.
Yeah, so hopefully Jonathan will be pleased by this. We now feel like there's enough games in this calendar year in international football to judge these players based on their international performances.
Oh, I am. With Germany beat Latvia 7-1.
Yeah, but they also lost to North Macedonia, though. So.
But okay, but that's the same. It's the same argument. They're playing weaker opposition than the might of Poland and Ireland. Was it San Marino the other game?
Yeah, San Marino. Yeah.
God, England have had it tough. Hardest game in the world.
Balances out quite nicely, I think. Yeah. So yeah, we've gone for that. So international ratings this year, so since the start of the turn of the year, and yeah, where we just left off, it is actually Jordan Pickford has a better rating than Manuel Neuer. So it's Pickford in goal. I'm gonna, having sort of maybe pleased Jonathan a little bit, I'm going to upset him again straight away. We've gone for a back four, and we've gone for Kimmich as the right back in that back four. and then it's
with England's 100 right backs. Kimmich's
I know. Yeah,
Jeez.
that's true. Yeah, it's true. It's actually Matty Cash in at right back. No, so it's Kimmich right back, Maguire and Hummels, which is probably the debatable one in this back line. Hummels and Maguire at centre back, and then it is just Luke Shaw actually ahead of Robin Gosens in the back four, and then there's a midfield three of Phillips, Kroos, and Mount, and then the front three is Serge Gnabry and Sterling either side of Harry Kane. Both teams, I guess, have got that issue up front. As much as you'd doubt whether Harry Kane's ever an issue, just not really got a player in form leading the line. Havertz has performed pretty well at this tournament, so he'll definitely start. But when you're looking at sort of Werner, I know Jonathan said the sort of you'd worry about all of the Germany sort of players that aren't defenders. Maybe with the exception of Werner, I'm going to set myself up for a fall and he gets a hat trick. But yeah.
Even if he doesn't score, though, his movement is still so good that it can cause England all kind of problems. I fear
what he does afterwards. He's like a worse version of Sterling in terms of that last action. I
think his movement's better than Sterling's. I mean, you can see if England's fullbacks are allowed to attack a bit more than they have been. You can see Werner pulling into those spaces and dragging England apart. That troubles me.
Yeah, he makes so much space for other players, and they've got dangerous players that could fulfil roles and do damage. So yeah, I think that would be a concern as well. I was surprised to see Phillips in that team because I think he's had a decent Euro so far. Obviously, an exceptional first game against Croatia, but I've kind of never noticed him in any other England game that he's played.
That's kind of what you want from a deep line midfielder, isn't it? It's like a referee holding midfield as a best unobserved.
Yeah, maybe. But then I did notice him in the Croatia game, so yeah, it's weird.
Well, because he wasn't playing in the holding role.
He played a different role, yeah.
Yeah, you're making.
But I mean, that midfield,
making a mug of me here.
that midfield is not going to give the ball away, is it? That's a great midfield holding possession with Mount and Kroos as well.
I think interestingly, Phillips is the only England player who's played every minute so far, isn't he, of the Euros? So he's sort of really
Bielsa's fitness work again. England's debt to Bielsa.
Anything you disagree with in that team, Jonathan? Anything you'd change?
No, I mean not massively. No, I mean there's always that issue when you're putting wing backs into a back four, but Kimmich is clearly more than capable of doing that. I mean, clearly, were I picking a squad, I'd put Kimmich in his best position, which is the back in midfield, because it's not like there is a shortage of right backs. Yeah, that's true. And I think, sensational as Phillips has been over the last year or so, Kimmich is a better footballer. At this stage, I mean, in 5 years, maybe that won't be true. But I would have Kimmich at the back of midfield and bring in, I don't know. I mean, we haven't got time to list all the right backs. I'm not a massive Luke Shaw fan, but it's fine. He's good enough. Hummels, Hummels is interesting. I mean, how many clean sheets have Germany kept? Germany haven't kept a clean sheet, have they?
No, in the Euros.
So, they didn't keep a clean sheet against Latvia. So, has he played one other game since he came back?
No, just.
So he hasn't kept a clean sheet. He hasn't kept a clean sheet in two of those games he's been against Hungary and Latvia. I mean, what kind of nonsense is this?
He didn't play Latvia for what it's worth. No, he didn't.
But he's only played 3 games.
Yeah, he's only played the Euros games.
Own goal in there. Gave away a penalty that wasn't given.
I'm not having that. No.
Basically, what I'm saying is, I think if you've got pace, you can get at him. I mean, Harry Kane hasn't, but Sterling could be able to get at him.
Yeah, hopefully Raheem's got his running shoes on.
That's the one thing I'd say about Hummels. So I can see him scoring against England. He poses a real threat in the opposition box, and like you say, more for England. You need goals all over the pitch, and every time I watch Hummels, he has a chance in a game. So hit the woodwork.
I mean, flipping that on its head, and Southgate's mentioned this. England's lack of threat from set plays has been a concern, and maybe that alone is a reason to get Trippier back in the side. Somebody who actually give you good dead ball delivery. But you look at that Germany team, and all right, Rudiger and Hummels great in the air. There's not a lot of other height in the team. Kimmich, for all his qualities, isn't great in the air.
Maybe that's why you play Goretzka. Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, Yeah, but I mean, I think Goretzka's just a better holding midfielder than either Kroos or Gundogan. Kroos is great at keeping the ball moving, but Goretzka gives you that physicality. I suppose they do have people like Havertz who
he's quite tall,
who are tall and good in the air, so they can do the defensive job. But there may be opportunities there for England to exploit when you think they've got Kane and Maguire and Stones. The siege engines to wheel forward.
Before we review the rest of the games of the last 16, let's just catch up with Sam from Bet Victor and see how the market for the outright winner is going. Sam, nice to speak to you. As always, we're going to talk today about the outright winner market now. Are France still the favourites?
They are with ourselves at Bet Victor, 7-2. Despite, I think at times, looking a little bit iffy, I'd say from a bookmaking perspective, I think we've got plenty to take them on with. Still playing the 2 places each way as well if you want to get involved in terms of making sure your team reach the final. And next in will be a popular bet, I think the Italians at 5-1. Then we've now got England at 6-1. Obviously, if, and it's a big if, they can get past Germany, that side of the draw on paper looks like it's really opened up, and we might see a bit of a repeat. Some of Gareth Southgate's critics have always said that we had a soft draw to get to the semi-final of the World Cup. Well, I think the same could potentially be said if England can get past Germany. Germany in there at 7-1, whilst at times they've looked pretty desperate. I did watch the full game of the Portugal game where they scored 4 goals, and I think they really turned up. Struggled past Hungary, didn't they? But never write off the Germans, to use that dreadful cliche. 7-1. Spain, who I think another team that potentially have overachieved a little bit in terms of what that last result did in terms of the group stages. They're 8-1. I'd be quite happy to take them on. Belgium look like they've got a bit of a tough draw at 9s. Netherlands, who've been impressive in free scoring, 9-1. Portugal, bit of a surprise to me that we've got them as big as 12-1. Ronaldo obviously heads the goal scoring charts. Denmark 20s, and then bigger than the rest. I will give a mention to our Welsh watchers, 100-1 if you fancy Wales to go deep into the tournament. Again, could potentially face England in the semi-final.
There's nothing there that really stands out to me, Sam. What do you think is the standout one to back there?
And it's a big if I had to have a dart, going for England's a bit predictable, but the draw is obviously softer. I think personally, if I had to have I'll put 2 up. I think the Dutch side could maybe score their way at least into the semis, and at 9-1, I think they're a fair price. And if you wanted a real flyer, they've been a bit in and out, but I wouldn't be staggered to see the Ukraine maybe get a little bit further than people would expect. And at 125-1, it would be a huge, huge shout. But I think that might be one that will shorten. But for me, I'll probably stick with the Netherlands and maybe Portugal to get past a difficult tie.
Yeah, I think if I had to choose one, you just know that Germany will turn into the best team in the world against England. So they're on that favourable side, maybe at 7-1. I'd back Germany, but the heart doesn't really want me to do that. Not the head doesn't really want me to do it either, to be honest.
I must say, I'd be quite happy. I think the Italians, for all people have said, I'm a bit surprised that they're not closer to France in the betting. But
me too.
I think they're going to have to really show it now. Perhaps they had one of the slightly easier groups in comparison to the French, of course. But it was, it's been really exciting so far. The tournament really is hotting up now. And there's plenty of patriotic money for England. They might go just a little bit shorter before the game, but 6-1 at the moment looks a fair price to my eye.
Now, in the first podcast, Sam, we had a nice little tie-up with Bet Victor. We had a bet boosted of 55-1 of France to win the whole thing and Lukaku to get golden boot. I think it was 55-1. What's it looking like now?
Well, you're on to a good thing, it feels like, potentially. 16-1 now at time of recording. Now, Lukaku's obviously sat on 3 goals. He's going to have to go some to catch up with Ronaldo, who sits there on 5, but potentially he's got the opportunity to put them out, which is always a pretty big thing. The favourite in that particular market is France and Cristiano Ronaldo at 8-1. Then we've got all sorts of other related Ronaldo bets in there. But I'm not quite sure that golden boot market's as done as people think. Just to run the overall golden boot market, there's plenty of football still to be played. I would just maybe want to be a bit hesitant on backing Ronaldo at 4-5 now with ourselves. For all he's a world-class player. Lukaku's next in at 6-1. We're now 3 places as the tournament's progressed if you're looking for each way prices. Benzema's next of the rest at 14-1. And that player that we mentioned a little bit earlier, Wijnaldum's in there at 16-1. So there's plenty of options at bigger prices for people that have already got a few goals next to their name.
we'll see what happens and we'll see how it shakes up in the next week or so. Sam, always a pleasure to chat to you. Have a good day.
No problem, guys. Looking forward to watching the rest of the show.
Right then, let's look at Wales against Denmark. Denmark yet to keep a clean sheet at the tournament, Martin. Wales, decent chance, although I do think Denmark might have a little bit too much for them.
Yeah, I think both of these teams have impressed in their own right, and I think it should be a really entertaining game, shouldn't it? There's a lot of love for Denmark, understandably. There was going into the tournament. To be fair, there are a lot of sort of neutrals that really thought they'd do well. I think they have played well, even if they've only got that one win. So yeah, definitely make them favourites. But one thing you would need to consider is obviously they're not in Copenhagen anymore, and that was with everything that happened, that was huge in terms of creating that atmosphere. I don't think they'll have problems getting up for it based on what has happened. But Wales, at the same time, they've posed a threat in every game they've played, really. And I think Wales score in this game. Personally, like you say, Denmark get to keep a clean sheet of the tournament. They've sort of switched to a back three in their last game, didn't they? So it'll be interesting to see if they stick with that. But I think we've seen Bale hasn't scored yet, but he's played well. Ramsey's played well. So these players step up when they need to on these occasions. And yeah, I don't think this will be a sort of straightforward game at all.
No, you do kind of get the vibe, Jonathan. Wales kind of know what they're doing in the Euros nowadays.
Yeah, they've been a lot better than I thought they'd be. I mean, you quite often see, I think, teams who've gone unexpectedly far in a tournament. The next time in a tournament, it can be slightly anticlimactic. They don't have that sort of thrill of anew, that sort of euphoric sense. But Wales seem somehow to have kept that going. There's also a slightly odd thing that you feel that Kiefer Moore should be able to terrify a lot of international defences. And yet he keeps on coming up against the teams who have the two big, or in Denmark's case, three big centre-backs. So I'm not sure how much joy he will get out of Simon Kjær and Christensen. And, he's already played Turkey and Italy. But, he's had a great tournament so far. And I think playing him has clearly been the right choice. That seems to have liberated Bale a bit and Daniel James as well. I still sort of think Denmark will have, although it won't be their own fans, I think they still will have a balance of support just because of everything that's going on. I do worry slightly about Damsgaard running at the Welsh defence. So I would just about favour Denmark, but not by a huge amount. And what's interesting about Denmark is, although I favoured them before the tournament, is for completely different reasons to why I favour them now.
Yeah.
What are you saying score-wise, Martin?
I'm going to, like I said, I think Wales will score, and we'll come on to that later. We've got a little tip later, but I'll go for 2-1 Denmark.
Is that what you?
So will John.
Yeah.
I'm going to go 1-1 Denmark on penalties.
Okay.
Have some of that. How about that? Yeah, mixing it up a little bit. The other Saturday game, Jonathan's Italy v Austria. Can only really see this going one way.
Yeah, I mean, this would have been a massive game in the 1930s.
We've only got 4 minutes, Jonathan. We've only...
Italy, 1934 World Cup. Italy famously outmuscled Austria in a game of high controversy and great violence. And I suspect they'll just be too good for them this time. I think there is a better side. Though Austria were a lot better against Ukraine than I'd given them credit for being. I think the wing backs have done really well for Austria. So it's maybe not. It's not quite a pushover, but you still think the way Italy have been playing. You look at that Austrian back three. I don't think any of them are particularly. I mean, it depends where Alaba plays, but there's at least a couple of players in that back three who I don't think are particularly comfortable on the ball, who you think might panic a bit with Italian pressure. So it should be relatively straightforward for Italy.
Yeah, Martin, do you back that up?
Yeah, I do. I think. Yeah, I completely agree. Austria surprised me against Ukraine. I thought up to that point, they were like, if they were going to get through, they'd be looking like probably the weakest team in the round of 16. I think there's probably still a case for that. Personally, I just don't see. I know they've scored a few goals at the tournament now, but how to get past this Italy team is a problem that everyone's facing at the moment. I can't see. While I can see Wales scoring, I can't see Austria scoring personally.
Give me your score prediction.
I'll go 2-0. Italy.
Jonathan, 2-0 as well?
Yeah.
I'm going to go 3-0 Italy.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just trying to be different.
That's
All three of us can't predict the same thing. That doesn't really make for an interesting show.
No.
Does it? A little interlude now to talk about our Saturday tip that we've got going on, Martin. We've been doing well with the tips, but it could have been a lot better, couldn't it?
It could have been. It could have been a lot better. Yeah. I thought you might mention that. We had a winner from Monday's show, didn't we? Spain to win 2-0, kicked it off. That was quite predictable. Lewandowski to score, courtesy of Jonathan, and both teams to score, courtesy of Dan. That was boosted from 6 to 7 to 1. So if you got on that, nice little bit of winnings there.
Yeah, I mean, I was given the Portugal-France game both teams to score, and I wanted to do both teams to score in both halves. And to be honest, at one point, that probably wasn't looking like it was going to happen. But then right on half-time, it came alive. That would have been a real big winner, wouldn't it, Martin?
I mean, if it wasn't Mateo Lahoz, then that wouldn't have happened.
He was on it. He backed that. He did 100% back that.
Dan, talk me through the previous treble we attempted.
That was our Costas. I openly admit, but then I tried to bounce back, and I would have bounced back.
Yeah,
I did bounce back, but I could have bounced back even stronger. I mean, I sound like I'm doing another podcast there. I could have been even stronger with that tip there if mine had let me off the leash. But I'm not even allowed to make a tip for Saturday's game. It's just you two. It's outrageous. So tell me what we've got going on, Martin.
Yeah, just simply because obviously there's 2 games on a day now. There's no 3 games on a day. So it was Dan who got the cut. It's worth saying we've got 5 out of the last 6 tips right on these trebles, so which is very good. So yeah, Dan's got the cut, having been the only one to get one wrong. Sorry, Dan.
It's all about consistency at this level.
It is, exactly. Right. And yeah, basically it just reflects what we just said, what we just spoke about for Wales, Denmark, and Italy, Austria. So we've got Wales and Denmark, both teams to score, and Italy to win 2-0, which they've done for the last 67 years. And that's been boosted by BetVictor to 4-1. So not a massive price, but I think that's a good bet. I think.
And just to be clear, that's Italy to win without conceding, not to win.
To win 2-0. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, without conceding. Very good.
I'm going to be honest, I've not been allowed to do it, so I'm probably a little bit biased. It's a bit boring. I'm a bit bored by that one.
You can't always do both teams to score.
Like stumbling in the top tier at Wembley, kind of. Quarter of an hour gone, is still 0-0. Boo.
Just
get Greenish on. Get Greenish on. Boo.
Was that a Brummie accent impression as well in there?
It wasn't meant to be, no, but who knows what you poisoned me with?
That's true. I just 4-1. It's a bit short, isn't it, overall? But yeah, you're in charge, man. You're the boss. So
you're really bigging up that tip there, Dan.
It is what it is. We've had bad tips. Let's move away from the BetVictor tips and back to the games. Netherlands against the Czech Republic, Jonathan. Are Netherlands going to continue their winning run?
Well, this is, I think, their first proper test. I think the Czechs have been. I think essentially the Czechs since that first game in qualifying when they lost 5-0 at Wembley, I think the Czechs have actually been pretty good. They've gone slightly under the radar because that 5-0 sort of, obviously somebody just glancing at the group, they see they conceded 5 goals, but defensively have been pretty good since then. The one disappointment with the Czechs. I mean, they didn't really turn up at Wembley, but they didn't really need to. But they did have chances first half. But that second half against Croatia was where they disappointed me. That's where they could have really stamped their authority on the group and guaranteed going through and put real pressure on England in terms of top spot. I mean, it may be they sort of looked at the options for going through and thought there wasn't a huge amount of incentive to take top spot. But yeah, they're solid. They're well organised. Schick is obviously in great form. I think at the back of midfield, De Rida pushing forward has looked really good. I think Hulesh, who came in for the second game, replaced Kral. Just because I know he can also play centre back, I assumed that was a negative move, and maybe it is. I think he's not as attacking as Kral, but he has looked really good going forward, and. He had that one outstanding shot. So I sort of, they're sort of a nice solid team with a little bit more. So I think this is a test of the Dutch, who, having been criticised in the build-up for being a bit too negative, Frank de Boer experiment with a back 3, which obviously caused all kinds of palpitations among Dutch fans. He's gone to a traditional 4-3-3. But this is a real test of just how good that is defensively. And we saw that little wobble ahead against Ukraine, that they're not they're not that secure at the back. So I think the Dutch should win it, but I don't think it's going to be easy at all.
Martin?
Yeah, I'd agree. It'll be interesting to see whether Hollesh plays, whether there's any holes in the midfield for those that don't like to pronounce names properly. He was good. One for the shirt number fans, Dan, and I know you're a shirt number fan. Number 9, Thomas Hollesh. I'm not having that.
No, you can't
in a deep line midfield. But yeah, I do think I think that's the area that Netherlands look really strong. Like we've mentioned, De Jong and Wijnaldum have both been excellent so far. So I think they will just have enough. But I think this game will probably go against what we saw in the group with the Netherlands in terms of all their games were sort of free scoring, quite open attacking games. I don't see that being the case this time. I don't think Netherlands really know another way to play or can play another way. But I do think, like Jonathan says, Czech are a little level above. I'd still question whether they're a real sort of threat. And even if Netherlands get through, there'll still be question marks over whether they've played a decent enough team yet to judge them. So I do think they'll get through. I'd probably go for 1-0 Netherlands. So.
That's what I was going to say.
Sorry.
You keep getting your predictions in first. I was going to let Jonathan go first that time.
I'll go 2-0 Netherlands. 2-1.
2-1.
Yeah.
2-1. Czech Republic to score. I presume you'll have Schick on the score sheet there, I would think. They're probably
set plays. The set plays are
so Czech dangerous. Yeah,
they are a physically big team, and so I could easily see them scoring from a set play.
Probably the second biggest game of the last 16, Belgium v Portugal, and we've got down here probably the battle for the Golden Boot and the player of the tournament does probably rely on this game with Lukaku against Ronaldo, De Bruyne against Ronaldo, all that jazz. Jonathan, how do you see it?
I think Portugal have been rubbish so far. I think there was a little spell in the first half against France when they looked a bit better. I thought they were really lucky against Hungary, having been really disappointing. I don't think the front end of the team is working at all. I think Ronaldo caused all kinds of problems by not closing anybody down. Having said that, they're against a really rickety Belgian defence. I don't know if Vertonghen, I don't know if he's still struggling with his ankle injury. I know that was a problem for him in the game against Denmark. And he's already 34. So 34 plus an ankle injury means not a lot of pace, and Ronaldo obviously still does have that explosive pace. So that could be a problem. You assume that Boyata will come back instead of Denayer, and then Alderweireld as the other defender. So at least there's 3 of them there to try and pick up Ronaldo and whatever else Portugal have breaking forward. But it's those Portuguese creative midfielders, I think, have been a disappointment. And we saw against Germany that Portugal, because they play so narrow, they are susceptible to wing-backs if you can switch the ball quickly. And the Belgian wing-backs, although they've lost Timothy Castagne, I think have been excellent this tournament. I think Meunier is...
Yeah, he's done well.
He's arguably as good as Castagne anyway. So it's him on one side and Carrasco on the other. I think there's definitely potential for them to do to Portugal what Germany did to them. Plus, it's not even like you can sort of stack the outsides and sort of think there's no threat going through the middle, because you've got Lukaku, who, as we said, has been the best centre forward in the tournament, plus De Bruyne, plus Eden Hazard, who's not fit at the moment, but maybe is sort of slowly building into fitness. So while I don't trust the Belgian defence, I think they've got more than enough going forward to expose a bit of a Portuguese team which had been their strength, but I think it's been a bit suspect over the last couple of games.
I look at the Belgian team, and I touched on it in the last episode that we did. I don't like the centre-backs that play on the outside of the back 3 for Belgium. I don't think any of them are outside centre-backs, because I think they all lack a bit of pace. I presume De Bruyne is going to play in the 2 in front of the back 3, don't you? With the way they're going to line up. I suppose he could move into the front 3 and they do that weird false 9 thing where Lukaku drifts wide and Mertens drifts wide. But I actually think Portugal can really get a Belgium, Martin.
Yeah, they can do. Like you say, this is probably this game and the England-Germany game that are the 2 that look close. And yeah, it would be interesting. I think in terms of the Golden Boot, completely reliant on this game. If Ronaldo scores, even if Portugal go out, if Ronaldo scores, I think he's difficult to catch. If Lukaku scores and Belgium go through, then he certainly can catch him. So that's a really interesting watch for this game. Obviously, that'll be the sort of key head-to-head
subplot.
subplot. Yeah, that's probably a better shout. But yeah, like Jonathan says, where Portugal looked really, really strong at right back heading into the tournament, Cancelo and Ricardo Pereira probably their two strongest right backs. Neither available, and now potentially Semedo out as well, which could mean Diogo Dalot starts at right back. And with that in mind, this could actually be a really big game for Eden Hazard if he starts on that side. So yeah, that'll be.
And Semedo, having really struggled against Gersons, I thought played very well against Mbappe on whichever day it was, Wednesday.
Yeah, harsh. You got that harsh penalty against them, didn't he? So yeah, it'll be interesting. That'll be a sort of another battle to watch. So yeah, this is an intriguing game. One to point out, we called for Renato Sanchez to come in, didn't we, against France, and he was excellent. He's probably their best player in that game. So yeah, I really enjoyed his performance. So hopefully he keeps his place. And yeah, he did start ahead of Fernandes, which we tipped might happen. We said it would be a big call, and it was, but justified in the end.
It's funny how we've not talked about your that little bet that didn't come in. We didn't mention that, did we? Ronaldo Sanchez to get booked.
Bet builders are very renowned, very tricky. Ronaldo did score. Let's face it, Kante should have been booked in that game.
Yes, he
got away with a few. It was Renato Sanchez who we did actually tipped us to start and did come in. So I was very happy about that ahead of the game. And yeah, he didn't get booked. Didn't really look like getting booked either, to be fair. But yeah, I thought Kante definitely should have been booked, and Ronaldo scored. So we weren't a million miles away on another day.
And of course, I backed the one that didn't come in rather than the one that did. Natural. Yeah, that's what always happens. Give me a prediction then, Jonathan.
3-1 Belgium.
Ooh. Got on there, Martin?
I like it. I'll go 2-1 Belgium. I fancy
Belgium as well?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to go 3-2 Portugal after extra time.
Ooh.
Yeah, I think Portugal might beat them. I just think that defence can be a joke for Belgium. Right then, Croatia against Spain, Jonathan. Obviously, Spain coming off the back of one of the toughest games that they'll ever play against Slovakia. How do you see this one going?
Well, I mean, I don't know. What is Spain any good? I've got no idea.
I can't work them out at all. I've literally got no idea.
I sort of instinctively think they have been good. Just because, I mean, to dominate possession the way they have in 3 games is not easy. I think by doing that, they've defensively looked pretty sound. So I think their XG against is the 3rd best after Italy and England, or maybe joint 3rd best after Italy and England in the tournament so far. You sort of assume that if you create that many chances and if you have that much of the ball, even Morata will eventually score goals. Yeah, well, that's the problem. Maybe he doesn't. But you almost wonder, kind of, was the breaking of a dam against Slovakia? That could go 2 ways. It could be that they sort of used up all the goals, because that's definitely a thing that happens in football. Or it could be that sort of relaxed everybody, and they sort of feel more confident in the box now, and they're obviously not going to face another keeper who helps them out quite as much as that. But I sort of think the Spanish midfield picking its way through a Croatian midfield, which, although it played better against Scotland, is still pretty slow. I just sort of think that eventually weight of pressure will tell in Spain's favour.
Martin?
Yeah, can't really add much to that. I wouldn't read into the Spain-Slovakia game. Just Slovakia are absolute shambles. I was pleased that goal difference just went up and up, or down and down in Slovakia, in case of Slovakia, just because watching them again would have been a struggle. I felt for Dubravka, obviously sublime to the ridiculous, made a good penalty save, but that own goal was something quite special. So yeah, Spain, yeah, they've obviously, I think they've improved potentially game on game. But yeah, it was a surprise lineup in many ways, wasn't it? They made 4 changes, I think. Azpilicueta came in. Eric Garcia came in. So it'll be interesting to see the lineup, whether he sticks with that lineup. I think he probably will based on what happened. And Morata's obviously the question mark, but to pull out a player like that, who's so sort of brittle on confidence, having just missed a penalty, you'd have to say if he does come out at this stage, it'll probably be the end of his tournament in terms of starting at least. So yeah,
and he's also, I think he's just essential to that system. I don't think there's any other of the forwards give him quite his range of abilities, goal scoring, obviously not particularly being among them. And Luis Enrique said that. So I think Morata's a bit like Kane. It almost doesn't matter how badly he plays. he kind of has to play because there's just nobody else who does what he does.
Yeah.
I think even Martin might have tucked away one of the chances in that game against Lukaku the other day. I've seen Martin.
You've seen me play.
I was going to say you're actually a decent footballer. I remembered as I said that I've actually played in a football tournament with you, and you were pretty good. Absolutely. You would have scored, Martin.
Made a mug of Dean Saunders when we played. What a goal that was.
We saw off a few ex-Villa players, didn't we, our team? Good, successful team, but that's a story for another day. Jonathan, give us a prediction for Croatia, Spain.
2-0 Spain.
2-0 Spain. Martin?
Yeah, 1-0 Spain.
I'm going to go 2-1 Croatia. I'm either going to end up looking really stupid or really clever in the next show. Yeah, I mean, we've all picked the same team up until now, haven't we? I'm not sure on Spain. I'm really not sure on them at all. I think Croatia could perhaps outpower them. France v Switzerland. I imagine this will be a quick roundup, Martin.
Yeah, but France haven't been convincing to now, and Switzerland will literally just look at that Hungary game and try and recreate it, basically. And like I said earlier, it's all about stopping that supply, in my opinion. Stop Pogba, and you've got a chance. If he runs the show and is able to pick those passes out to the sort of fluid front three, then they're in trouble, really. But Switzerland are an organised team. They can do that. They can frustrate this France team, I think. So I don't think it will be an easy game. As much as I think France will win, personally don't think it'll be an easy game. I don't think they generally don't win games that comfortably anyway, even though they're so fancied. In general, they don't sort of wipe the floor with teams. So yeah, I think it will be low scoring personally, and probably 1 goal in France's favour.
Do we score?
Yeah, I'll go for 1-0 then.
1-0. I was going to go 1-0 as well. Jonathan, anything to add?
No, full house of 1-0s.
1-0.
I mean, the one thing you'd say, Switzerland will play a back three as Hungary did. So that they can. I think they can make it frustrating for France, but France often make it frustrating for themselves.
Yeah.
I mean the Switzerland-Turkey game, Switzerland could have won that about 8-3. It was an absurdly open game. Shaqiri obviously had a great game then, but even he missed one really good chance. And Mbolo looked excellent in that game in a way I hadn't seen him look quite that level before. And his link up with Seferovic again was. Swiss forwards looking competent in a way that it hadn't occurred to me they could be. So I don't think it's impossible Switzerland could upset them, but yeah, I think France will do what France do and grind it out 1-0.
Surely Mbappe's got to score a goal at some stage.
I don't see the big space behind the Swiss though. That's the only thing. I mean, obviously he's good enough in the box to score goals anyway, but the sort of classic Mbappe goal of running beyond the defence, I'm not sure that's going to happen.
No,
or not for the first goal anyway.
He's got to get on the score sheet at some point. I would never have said he'd have gone into the group stage without a goal. Mind you, there's plenty of players actually who haven't scored in the group stage who I would have said exactly the same thing for as well. Final game of the last 16 then, Jonathan, Sweden v Ukraine. The winner of this game is going to play England or Germany. Ukraine, you were liking Ukraine before the tournament, weren't you?
Yeah, I was. And I was really disappointed by them against Austria. I thought they played well against the Dutch. I thought they played well enough against North Macedonia. Malinovsky, I think, has had a decent tournament. Yarmolenko and Yaremchuk, both scored in the first 2 games. And that was the question. I thought the question was, would they score enough goals? But they were so flat against Austria. I don't quite know. It almost felt the sort of the mentality of 2016 had dawned on them again. But they're through. Maybe they can reset. I don't think Sweden are going to put them under enormous amounts of pressure. They're obviously got to be very careful about Alexander Isak getting in behind them. I suppose there's still a question about who plays up front with Isak. That Robin Quaison came in for the Poland game rather than Berg. Koslewski was really good coming off a bench, but maybe he is best used off a bench, exploiting spaces if Sweden have a lead. And Forsberg was really good in that game. I obviously got the 2 goals, but more generally, so gave them a creative edge that they hadn't really had in those first 2 games. So I think Sweden will do what they do. 4-4-2, sit deep, try and draw Ukraine forward, and then the thing for Ukraine is to simultaneously not be drawn into that, but at the same time not lose their shape. So I think Sweden are probably just too canny for them. But there's a chance with Malinovsky in the form he's in.
Martin?
Yeah, I think the thing with Ukraine, completely agree, but I think
they've got that bonus of they probably thought they were out, so they've not really got anything to lose, and they've been given a pretty favourable draw as well. So where they look like they could be crashing out, they've got a real shot at a quarter-final place now. So I don't see it being a classic, personally. I don't think there's much between the teams at all. Personally, I'd like to see Kulusevski come in. Like Jonathan says, he was very good from the bench. He got 2 assists from the bench. But yeah, he is an impact player, so maybe they'll use him in the same vein. So yeah, I hope Kulusevski and Isak is at least a sort of front two to get excited about, and I think that's what we'll need in this game, because I think it will be quite tetchy. I see it being a draw personally. If I was going to call it, I'd probably go 0-0 or 1-0. I'll say 1-0. Optimist, I'll say 1-0. And then I can't really call it after that point, to be honest.
You've got to. You have to.
No, I can do a 90-minute bet on the draw. Okay, I'm going to go, based on nothing at all, on Sweden to win on penalties.
I'm going to go Sweden to win 2-1. What are you saying, Jonathan?
Sweden to win 1-0.
1-0. Well done, Sweden. Sweden going through then. I think that does us. I think that's every round of 16 game previewed. Really good to talk through all the games. I've got to say, now this is where it gets good, isn't it? When it gets to knockout football, Martin, this is where it'll come alive. Yeah,
it is, and it's an interesting draw, isn't it? Like I said,
good games.
There's only really 2 games where you'd look at. There probably will be a big team missing out. And there'll be a couple of sort of dark horses that make it through, in maybe like Sweden and Denmark. We've probably gone for as the 2 that sort of get further than many might have expected, although people fancy Denmark ahead of the tournament. So still sort of a nice balance of potential upsets and a couple of really good games to look forward to for the next round.
Well, thanks to both of you for joining me. As ever, a pleasure to talk to you, and thanks for everyone for tuning in and watching as well. If you're not already subscribed to Who Scored with your post notifications on, then do that. Then you'll know next week when our next show is coming out. Do go back and check our group stage review as well. We did go through earlier and review the group stage thus far, so go and check that out. As I say, we'll be back at some point next week as well, so get those post notifications on. Give the video a like and a comment as well, and we'll see you next week.